Hey everybody, it's me, Mr. Vasey, your friendly neighborhood math teacher. What's wrong? You can't see me? Oh, that's right, because I'm invisible. I'm using my ninja skills to make it so that you can't see me. Where I'm clearly standing right next to this lamp. Some things in life actually are very hard to see, such as the wind or ninjas. But actually, just to show you how smooth I am with my ninja skills, I'm going to play a little trick on my youngest son. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell him that I'm going to hide, and then I'm going to make it look like I'm hiding somewhere, but I'm going to be hiding somewhere else. So take a look at this. Hi there, little buddy. What's your name?
Wyatt.
What? Can you say that a little louder?
Wyatt.
Wyatt? I love you, Wyatt. Wow, I don't even get an I love you back. I'm your father. Do you love your father? Okay, let's shut the video down right now. All right, what we're gonna do, son, is we're gonna play a little game of hide and seek, okay? If you win, I'm gonna give you candy that your mama's not gonna let me give you. But the deal is this. You're gonna hide over there downstairs. Then mommy, look at me. Mommy's gonna call you up here and daddy's gonna be hiding. You have to come up here and find him as quick as you can, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I love you.
I love you.
Yes! Okay guys, come find daddy. So you might be wondering what all this invisibility talk is about. Well, let me show you. First, let me get on my math glove. Okay. Now, back in the day, we would have our axes set up like this. And I would ask you to graph some kind of equation. So let's put a parabola on here. And then I would ask you to find the zeros. Now, if it looked like this right here, we would be looking where this graph, this orange thing, crossed the x-axis. And since it didn't, we would say, well, it has no zeros. And I would be like, you're right. But actually, you were wrong. Because the fact of the matter is, it has zeros. They're just not real zeros. They are in your imagination. They're called imaginary or complex numbers. What that means is they're not visible on the real number plane. So they're invisible. So graphing it, you can't find them. You have to have a special tool, quadratic formula. Sorry. You have to have a special tool to find them. So it's kind of like, have you ever seen one of those pens that you can write, so it's like, you don't see anything, but then you shine this black light on it and you can see it perfectly well? Well, that black light is like the tool that we need to find these invisible zeros or imaginary zeros. Now, before we get into how to find them and what they're gonna look like, I have to teach you about a very special little ghost of a number. So let me draw this guy out. This little script-looking eye is the imaginary unit. Now, it is defined as this. It actually equals something that we were never allowed to do before. The square root of -1. We were never allowed to take the square root of a negative before, but now we can. It's like we've grown up and we're all ready to move out and we're allowed to do things we weren't allowed to do. So you've grown up in the math world. Now you can take the square root of a negative and it becomes an I. Now this is equally important. I squared, so if I squared this, I squared, square root of -1 squared, just gets rid of the square root. So I squared is -1, which is really weird. So Now we've got this imaginary unit that we weren't allowed to work with before. I am going to ask you guys to do some work with this unit. But first, I got to teach you a few things about it. So, let's do this. Let's say I wanted to find I cubed. Well, if I wanted to find I cubed, then I could break it apart. I cubed is really I times I times I. Now, I times I is I squared, which we said was -1. So I've got -1 times I. That equals -I. So I cubed is just -I. That's weird. That can't be right. Let me try one more. Let me try I to the 4th, because that's got to come out to be something a little different. I to the 4th is I times I times I times I. So we've really got an I squared. You know, honestly, this is like pairing up socks. So I've got, you know, like when you do the laundry and you've got to find the socks that go together. So this guy. I'm like, oh, it's 2 orange socks. Then you bundle them up and you're like, fold the tops together, make a ball of socks. And so this is the ball of socks. Really, we want to find pairs of eyes because they're like socks coming out of the dryer. So I found one pair of the eyes right here, becomes I squared. And then I've got another pair of eyes, becomes I squared. The reason why I want to pair them up is because when it's I squared, it magically transforms into a -1. So these both turn into -1s. So -1 times -1 equals 1. I to the 4th power equals 1? That is really strange. Well, we're going to do some of these and some practice on these where I'm going to give you eyes to different powers. Now, you can look up an easier way to do it, which there are. I'm not going to tell you. Or you can just pair them up. So for example, let me do one more real quick. Let's say I do I to the 5th. You can just write it out. I times I 5 times. And then you can pretend like you're pulling socks out of the dryer and you're like, okay, here's 2. They go in a pair, turns into I squared. And I'm going to skip a step. 2 of them turns into a -1. And then I've got another 2. And then you know what happens in the dryer. There's always that extra sock that it's like, where the heck is your buddy? And you don't know. Here's the extra sock left over. So I'm just going to bring it down. It's kind of just chilling there with no other pair to go with. So now I've got -1 times -1, which is +1, times I, which is just I. So you're going to notice with imaginary numbers, some weird things start to happen. I to the 5th becomes I, where when we just did I to the 4th, it became 1. So the I totally disappeared. We're going to do some practice on these. I'm going to put some up in Canvas, and I want you to do these 10 problems. You can do them any way you want. If you want to kind of Google some stuff to figure out a quicker way that I will show you next week, then that's cool. If you want to just pair them up to get some practice doing that, that is equally as cool. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon.